sleep, bet, repeat. That's how we get down on the opening line at EliteSportsBetting.com. I'll be your host, Benny Ricciardi, and today I got my man Duke with me. We're going over to Germany, Deutschland, to talk a little bit of Bundesliga soccer. But before we do that, Duke, I want to know how you're doing, my bro. What's going on?
Man, how good does it feel to say that? Eat, sleep, bet, repeat. And that's what we've been doing, man, because it's sports have stopped, but have they really stopped? We've had esports going. We've been big into the horse racing, NASCAR, MMA. Soccer's back now. It feels like it's been a slowdown, but not a total break for us over here. But we are full go. Baseball's getting ready to come back. NBA's talking about coming back. Night Ghost is talking about this new playoff format for NHL. We have the Bundesliga back, which we're going to talk about today. Benny, EPL's around the corner. La Liga in Spain is ready to roll. Even Serie A, your Italian heritage there, where they were ravished by this virus, is talking about finishing up the season now. So absolutely nothing but full bore moving forward here.
Yeah, and that's the good thing. You know, I mean, when everything first started, I mean, I remember it. You and I were gearing up to do a show that Friday. I think it was like a Tuesday or a Wednesday. Fucking Rudy Gobert has to go talk shit and lick a bunch of microphones. Exactly. And the next thing you know, just a shit show started, Duke. And that's kind of where we've been for the last month. You know, like you said, we've been making do with what we've had here. You know, trying to keep ourselves entertained, trying to keep our subs entertained. But the good part is I feel like we see the light at the end of the tunnel right now, right? I mean, MMA came back. You know, I was so happy with that. I bet a ton of money on those MMA matches last week. You know, we got soccer back now. You mentioned that they're talking about getting baseball back hopefully by July 4th. You know, NBA, you know, Governor Cuomo just announced that the teams can start practicing again. So, you know, you're going to get the Nets and the Knicks are going to be rearing up, and they're going to do something to try to finish the NBA season. And as of now, everything looks like it's, you know, full go for NFL to start on time. So, hey, listen, we got through the rough part here, guys, and we're back to doing what we do best, and that's helping you guys pick some winners. So today, like I said, we're going over to the Bundesliga. We're going to talk about Germany. And, Duke, before I even give you a chance to get into anything crazy here, I want to talk about the first game that we're going to have here. We got 4 games on Tuesday, 5 games on Wednesday, and the first one, the 2 teams at the top of the table, Dortmund and Bayern Munich. What are you looking at here?
The Classica. And you know what? I got a little story time before we get to that, Benny. Can I indulge?
Yeah.
All right. So first of all, shout out to you know, all our current and former servicemen and women out there. Memorial Day, USA, baby, all the way. We wouldn't be able to do any of this.
Jordan, by the way, for everybody wondering, number 9.
The GOAT, Michael Jordan there. So, you know, happy Memorial Day to everybody. We are going to talk about some German Bundesliga soccer, especially Der Klassiker here. We'll spend a lot of time on that and a couple big takeaways that I have so far with these teams coming back. But yesterday, Benny, speaking of servicemen and women, my brother-in-law is a Marine. They just had a little baby girl. I have a new niece. She's 4 weeks old. We have not met her yet because of coronavirus. They're moving away to North Carolina here in about a month or so. So probably never going to see them, or not going to see them for a while. We decided to make a road trip, 2-hour trip. We're loading up our child for the first time for a little road trip. So that's a whole scene, packing up the car. And, you know, we got 3 people. Looks like we're literally moving to Columbus. So we get in the car. We're driving down the road. I'm a half a mile from my home. I'm pulling up to a stoplight on a major intersection. And I'm seeing in the distance, like, why aren't these cars going? It's a green light. No one's turning. There's no one in front of me. Right? It's coronavirus. There's no one on the roads. No one's coming past me. And about that time, I've moved, you know, 600-700 feet, and I get to the intersection, Benny. I look off to my right. There is an ambulance with no sirens on, but lights blaring. And so about the time I see it, I'm going through the intersection. I like kind of slam on the brakes, but swerve. But I don't want the baby to go flying out of the car seat. So I just continue through the intersection. I'm like, Jesus, you know, to my wife, did you see that? I didn't even see this. Why didn't I have the sirens on? I look in my rearview mirror, bloop, bloop, cop lights. There was a cop going the other direction who flipped, turned around, and came right up to me. Pull off to the side. I'm talking to the cop. He goes, do you know why I pulled you over? Absolutely. I did not see the ambulance. I apologize. First trip with the baby. We're going to meet my Marine brother-in-law on Memorial Day weekend. They have a new niece who we're not going to see. I was in full-on sales mode.
Rapid fire.
He was a super nice guy. Let me off with a warning. And now the wife gets to make fun of me because I just absolutely word vomit all over this poor police officer there. And it was like literally split second. No one died because I did what I did, but I did feel awful about not seeing. Turn your freaking sirens on, ambulance. But crazy start. That was 2 seconds into our 2-hour road trip.
You know what? It's always nice when you get something crazy right there, right at the beginning of everything. And then for the next hour and 59 minutes of the trip, you got 2 hands on the steering wheel, and you're like, looking open. So
cruise on the speed limit, like right lane. So anyway, should we talk some German soccer?
Let's talk some German soccer. Like I said, I mean, this is probably the best game that you're going to see. You got teams at the top of the table. I think there's about 4 points that separates them in the standings at this point. So real big game here for both of these teams. Again, 2 teams that we've seen. You guys are going to remember us talking about some of these players and some of these teams because these are teams that are playing in other bigger competitions in Europe as well right now that, even though we don't talk a lot of Bundesliga soccer, we've definitely talked about both Dortmund and Bayern before.
Yeah, and, the German league has always been on TV here, not always, but in the last couple of years, been on TV here in the States, but is on the Fox network. So FS1, FS2, and some games on Fox. Typically, we talk about the EPL and Champions League. And the Champions League is where you'll recognize these teams from. Like Benny said, they're top 2 in the league. They're in the Champions League year in, year out. Dortmund, maybe the smaller club, whereas Bayern absorbs all the great talent from their own league. It's kind of a brilliant game plan, and the rest of the league just kowtows to them. I don't even understand it. Even currently, Lewandowski was a former Dortmund player, left to go to Bayern, and so on and so forth. Götze was at Dortmund, went to Bayern, now he's back. But a couple of things I want to talk about first, Benny, here, because I had some theories on how things were going to go once we came back from quarantine. A lot of these teams have been doing individual training and some small training things. Different regions within the country were more affected by coronavirus than others, so they were training early or not. 2 big things. How does home away get affected by this? Because obviously there's no fans in the stands. And then will the top sides dominate? Because we're trying to shove a bunch of fixtures, basically 3 months worth of fixtures into a month and a half. Yeah. So can the top deeper sides have more of an effect and more success as we came back? On the first one, home away, just take it out of your equation. I mean, if you had it as 20% of your model, move it down to 3 to 5%. We've seen already just through 2 weekends, home sides are just not winning games. And some of it's down to teams like Leipzig and Bayern being the away side. But, I mean, the first weekend, 1 win, 4 losses, 3 draws for the home team. Okay. And I think the only win was Dortmund. It was like minus 700 to win that. The second weekend, 2 wins, 5 losses, and 2 draws. It just happened here this past weekend. Bayern Munich and Hertha Berlin, who was a big favorite, who we bet on, were the only winners there. So for these smaller sides who maybe rely on that home crowd, the crazy atmosphere in Germany, especially where home fields and home crowds are so crazy, just really not getting that boost either to keep them in a game or push them on to get a win late on. Second big takeaway, big boys are definitely dominating. They always have in the Bundesliga. There's a big discrepancy between Bayern Munich and like Paderborn, first and last place.
Well, I mean, even if you look at the standings, you got 6 teams in the Bundesliga that are around 60 points overall. And then you have all the rest of the teams are at 40 points or below. So, I mean, it's definitely a league of haves and have-nots.
And even like Leipzig, who, struggle. I think they drew 2-2 the first weekend back, won 5-0 over Mainz yesterday. High-flying teams like that are probably going to take a game maybe to get their rhythm back. Everything's really sharp movements, sharp, crisp passing. Probably going to take a week to get your feet underneath you. And they looked like they were all the way back with their 5-0 win. Bayern's been dominating the opponents. Dortmund are rolling. So, it's been an interesting 2 weeks. Let's put it that way. The bets have been all over the map. I'm going to lower my unit size to about a half a unit until this kind of evens out, especially because I have a feeling where we used to just bet EPL and just bet Champions League, I'm probably going to be spraying the board, Serie A, La Liga, in the Bundesliga, EPL. So I'm lowering my units and just firing more bets, more likely moving forward to kind of cover different angles, if you will.
Yeah, and, I've been noticing something as well with the soccer being back. And it's not just soccer. I mean, MMA, yesterday with the Tiger and Phil thing that went on. You're getting a lot of line movement now because you're getting so much money being bet into some of these pools. So if you're on a book that's more of a line originator or somebody who's moving to kind of keep up with and limit the risk that they have here and not just kind of throwing out somebody else's number. You're seeing these numbers really move now because, normally, again, around the world, soccer is huge. So on any given weekend, there's always a lot of money bet in Europe on, any of these soccer matches that is going on. But even in the United States now, you're starting to see, couple, DraftKings did a couple $1 million in handle on the Bundesliga, where on an average weekend, they probably did a couple $100,000, 2 or 3 months ago. So you're getting a lot more money being thrown into here. You're getting, some of these numbers that are starting to move a little more. So it does kind of, give you a little bit of an advantage if you can get down early. So definitely take what Duke and I are saying here today and, maybe go and start a position on some of these teams that you want to bet on, because there could be a good chance where you can middle it by the end of the week or, by Tuesday or Wednesday when some of these games actually go off.
Yeah, and that golf was so fun yesterday, Benny. Jesus.
I watched
Tom Brady.
I watched 5 straight hours of golf for no reason. Nothing else going on, right?
Yeah, it's live sports. Let's do it. And you know what? Yesterday, this weekend, just looking at the Bundesliga in particular, football soccer is the most liquid sport in the entire world, like Benny was saying. So, the market's pretty efficient as is. But just this weekend, we had game totals of 4 goals, 1 goal, 2 goals, 2 goals, 7 goals, 3 goals, 5 goals, and 4 goals. You could have blindly bet the overs and been profitable this week. So I'm watching kind of the market as well to see what happens with the totals as we get back into it here. But let's talk about Der Klassiker. Let's do it. Bayern and Dortmund, because we are going to talk about 3 games this weekend, or for Tuesday. There's 4 total, but we're talking about 3. Traditionally, especially in this fixture, the home team wins the game or has the advantage in this game. Borussia Dortmund, known for their home field advantage. Bayern are just typically the better team. But as we've said, throw the home and away out of it. So I'm looking at these 2 teams just literally as a neutral field. And I think Dortmund has real issues in the middle of the park. Witzel's not back yet. Bayern has extreme depth and strength in the middle of the park. I think that's where the game is going to be won. And essentially, Dortmund has 3 goals from their glorified left back, Rafael Guerreiro. Helped us a lot in DFS, which we're smashing that, by the way. But you cannot rely on him to be your main goal threat. Erling Haaland, who is an unbelievable player, young player. He's the Kraken, I've dubbed him, because he's just ridiculous and long and insane. Barely touched the ball this past weekend, and that was against Wolfsburg. You might say, Duke, Wolfsburg a pretty good side. They are, but then what the hell is Bayern Munich if Wolfsburg a good side? So I think, Muller can't stop scoring and assisting. Lewandowski scored in both games back. Bayern are rolling. They're the deeper side. They're the better side. They are the away team here, which typically I would put into play. But in this situation, knowing the 2 teams, seeing them play a couple games, I think Bayern are further or closer to where they were before quarantine than Dortmund is at this moment. So if we were to play this game maybe in 2 to 3 weeks, I might have a different read on it right now. But give me the away side, Bayern Munich.
Now, are you betting on this one? Because I don't disagree with you. If we're picking winners here, if we're in a Bundesliga pool and we got to pick the winner of each one of these games, I'd be on the Bayern side too. But they are, I think it's minus 235 on the the no draw bet, which puts Dortmund at like plus 190. If you're looking at the 3-way bet, my guess is they'd be a little bit less than minus 235, but they're still probably negative money, maybe minus 130 or so.
Minus 115 is what I have.
Minus 115? Okay, that sounds about right. Which puts Dortmund at what? Plus 200, plus 2 something?
265.
All right, so plus 265. Like I said, I would expect Bayern to win this game, but don't you think the value is probably more on the Dortmund side?
One way you could play it is to take Dortmund and hope to get to halftime at 0-0 or 1-1 and then grab some value perhaps on the other side or the total even. Again, I'm lowering my units. So I don't like, you guys know, I don't like playing minus even 130, minus 150, minus 300 type plays. So the minus 115, I'm fine paying here simply because while they have attacking talent and Jadon Sancho came on and looked decent, he looked like he just rolled out of bed. Honestly, he's like awful beard. His hair was all over the place. He had his hands in his shirt, which just as a former coach annoys the shit out of me. He got an assist, but I just think Dortmund's got a ways to go before they're back fully clicking. A bit like Leipzig, they're kind of a high-flowing, high-speed, intense counter-attacking team. I think Dortmund's going to have some issues there with Bayern controlling the possession. But I can't disagree with you, Benny. 265 for a second place team who, routinely beats Bayern Munich at home. They won 2-0 at home over Munich on August 3rd. They won 3-2 November 10th of last year. I mean, it's truly a home and away split type of thing here. But just with the relative neutral ground that we're looking at here, the new sample size, I'll take the away side.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest. This is a game that I totally plan on watching, but I don't really plan on betting on. This is one of the games where I just said, you know what, I don't really have a strong lean here. I'm looking forward to watching this game. It should be fun. This is basically like the old dogs against the young pups. Yeah. I mean, you look at this Dortmund team. They have a lot of good, talented players that they purchased with the money that they got from selling some of these guys to Bayern and other teams in recent years. And the kids that they have are really good. They got kid from the U.S. and Reyna.
Gio Reyna.
Yeah, you mentioned Haaland, which has been unbelievable since he's come in. I mean, the guy's just scoring goals in bunches. And that's kind of the way I'm looking at this game. So let's move on and talk about some of these other games, because I have a 2-team parlay, which I kind of have a feeling are the other 2 games that you wanted to talk about here.
Yeah, the game I'm not touching. Well, I'm not touching Frankfurt versus Freiburg. The other 2 games we can talk about.
All right, then it probably is exactly. Basically, what I did is I took the 2 favorites in the next 2 games you're about to talk about here. That was my parlay. I actually played them with the draw no bet line. So you parlay the 2 of them together. I think you get like a minus 130. So you win about 60 cents on the dollar or so for putting these 2 together. But I really just don't see, Leverkusen losing to Wolfsburg. And Werder Bremen is one of the worst teams in the league. I can't even pronounce that other the team that they're playing
Borussia Mönchengladbach.
Yes, what he said right there. But I mean, the more you dig into it, like I said, if you start digging into the the Bundesliga table and everything like that, you will see that there's a clear line of delineation somewhere around 6 or 7 there, where the 6 or 7 teams above that line all have positive goal differentials. They're scoring goals in bunches. They're all 20 points clear of the teams in 8th and below in that same league, who are all at, even or negative when it comes to goal differential. And, like I said, 20, 25 points behind, some of the teams at the top of the table. So for me, like the first game where we're talking about Dortmund and Bayern, I'm staying away from that game because you got 2 of the teams in the top part of the table. I'm staying away from games where you have 2 of the teams in the bottom part of the table. But these 2 games are teams where you have 1 team in the top part of the table in the good part and 1 team in the bad part. When I have a team in the good part and a team in the bad part, those are the ones that I've been firing on so far in Bundesliga, and it seems to be working out well.
It can really be that simple sometimes, right? We don't need to overcomplicate this. And I like both those sides, Benny, to be honest. I'm not going to bet Leverkusen. They've been an absolute wagon since we've come back. Kai Havertz has been unbelievable playing that forward position, the number 9 position. I was wondering, can he be the finisher that they need on the end of all this, beautiful attacking soccer? And he has absolutely answered that question for me. Wolfsburg is super solid defensively here. And so I'm actually looking at the total versus the side. I would much prefer, I like Leverkusen, but again, it's minus 130. I don't necessarily want to pay that at the moment because Wolfsburg is so solid defensively. And they did get their 6'6" Terminator back in Weghorst, but they used him really oddly. Wolfsburg is, I'm talking about here, used him in a front 2, and he was kind of working the channels more than staying in the box and staying between those goalposts where typically you'd see that big target forward. So it didn't work out for them well. They did hold Dortmund down a little bit, but created very little going forward themselves. So I don't necessarily see Wolfsburg threatening to win this game, which perhaps is why the side is a good place to start with Leverkusen there, because they can certainly and they will certainly score here. I'm looking more towards the total. Leverkusen's been conceding goals and scoring goals for fun, and so I knew this would be a decently high total. Typically, this would be in the 2.5 range and maybe a little bit of juice on the over. We're looking at 3 with juice on the over at the moment. 3 with minus 15 juice on the over. I'm going to take the under. This is a game where it's minus 105, under 3. If we do get to halftime, if Wolfsburg completes their game plan and gets to halftime at 0-0, we can certainly either hedge or double down on wherever the total is. And at that point, perhaps find some value on Leverkusen, who's minus 130 now, who might be plus 105, plus 115 at halftime in that scenario there. So I'm going to start with the total. If we do see a Wolfsburg counterattack, crazy goal or deflection like we do see sometimes in soccer, then we're certainly fine there. If we get to halftime 0-0, I'll probably grab some Leverkusen shares at that point.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. I really don't like the minus 130 on the three-way line because I agree with this game could end 1-1, 0-0 very easily, which is why I actually parlayed them on the draw no bet.
I like that.
Yeah, because, I mean, I don't see them losing. That's my whole thing is I don't see them losing. Could it be 0-0 or 1-1? Absolutely, and I wouldn't be shocked if it was. But that's why you take the draw no bet line because then there's no bet and, it's just like a straight up even bet on the team that I can't pronounce that we're about to talk about now. So go ahead, Duke.
We're going and by the way, these are leans at this point. Certainly we'll update the bet pack for all our subscribers over at elitesportsbetting.com. But as Benny said, Werder Bremen stink. They stink out loud. And it sucks too because it's a storied club. They've been around forever. We actually have another American. The German Bundesliga is littered with Americans, by the way. Josh Sargent has been actually starting up top for Werder Bremen at some times, but they can't stop conceding goals. They're just concede. And Gladbach, even though they just lost to Leverkusen, is a wagon themselves too. They're part of the halves right now in that Bundesliga table. Against top six teams, Werder Bremen has 0 wins, 6 losses, and 2 draws. They lost the reverse fixture 3-1 to Gladbach. Again, they'll be trying to do everything they can to get to 0-0 at halftime. It will not happen. I'm taking Gladbach in the first half. I'm taking Gladbach in the game. I'm taking Gladbach minus 1.5 at plus 190. I don't see Werder Bremen scoring, and I see Gladbach bouncing back from that loss to Leverkusen and bagging at least a couple goals. His dad, Thuram, has been on fire. Plia cannot stop scoring, even though he didn't score last game because it was a tough matchup. I think he's going to get a goal. We can go 100 different ways in this game. The end result is Gladbach's getting the W.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if you look at the table right now, this is they're the 6th place team, and Bremen, who has really fallen on hard times, would actually be relegated if today was the the last day of the season and the schedule. That's how far they've fallen. And you know what? There are still a lot of people who follow soccer who know the name and are going to be betting on them because they know the name. And honestly, it's one of those situations where you look at what they've done this season. You look at their goal differential. You look at the fact that they can't stop anybody and they can't score. If you have a team that can't score and can't stop anybody, I'm going to be betting against them any day of the week, no matter what sport we're talking about here. So you could get those two teams if you take the draw no bet line on those two teams. The draw no bet line on both is like minus 300, so you get like a minus 130 payout on the parlay. The way that I think I actually may go back and put a second bet in now that we've talked here. I still like the draw no bet on the Leverkusen game. Okay. I might just take them to win. I might just take this game to win straight up on the on the 3-way line here, which would get you above even money if you parlay those two together.
Yeah, Gladbach right now for the first half is plus 130 to win. They're minus 130 for the game. I like that minus 1.5 for plus 190, Benny. I mentioned those games against the top 6. They're the goal differential for just those games, 21-6. And it's not, 1-0 losses. It's, Bayern beat them 6-1. Leipzig beat them 3-0. Dortmund beat them 2-0. Leipzig beat them 3-0, 3-0 twice, actually. I mentioned the reverse fixture was a 3-1 win. We can attack the Gladbach total. We can attack the game total. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to go with this game. The thing I'm going to need to do, and I preach it all the time, is manage my bankroll because, again, we are going to be firing bets here. And, the inclination is we haven't had sports in forever. Let's go, go, go. Like I said, I'm reducing my unit size, if you will, and lowering those bets a little bit because we are just getting back into it. We have seen some funky results. We've seen some poor finishing, like absolutely piss poor finishing. And again, a lot of that just comes down to form and confidence for some of these players. And you don't get that unless you start playing games. And so as we get further into this, we'll probably creep those unit sizes back up. But right now I'm just trying to manage the bankroll and get back into the swing of things.
Yeah, and like you said, this is not normal times either because they're basically trying to play a Tuesday, Wednesday game every week and then a Saturday, Sunday game every week. So they're trying to, squeeze the schedule in as much as they can. A lot of these teams, some of the ones at the top maybe are built to be playing midweek games because they're used to when they're playing in all these other European competitions. But you get teams that are at the middle to the lower end of the table here. These are not teams that have the kind of depth where they can just roll in a new 5 or 6 guys every couple of days to, kind of give guys rest there. These are teams that were basically put together to play once a week for the most part and, try to claw their way up into, into getting a spot in Europe, at which point, the team will spend some money and bring in some more talent and some more depth. So, it'll be interesting to see how things work out going forward, not just with the Bundesliga, but with a lot of these other leagues that are starting too, where, the teams that were built to play, European, cup football are probably going to have an advantage if you're trying to squeeze this many games in this shorter period, because they go a lot deeper than, the team that just, got promoted last year and are just trying to hang out and avoid relegation this season. So I do think it's, it's going to be an advantage to certain teams at the top of the table and a disadvantage to the ones at the bottom.
And I think what we'll see, and I'm keeping an eye on a lot of different things, but I think what we'll see is some of these teams towards the bottom of the table picking and choosing their spots. There's no reason for Dusseldorf to roll out their best 11 against Bayern Munich when they're probably going to lose by 3 goals anyway, right? So if that happens to fall on a Wednesday when they've just played on Sunday and have a game next Saturday, maybe they roll out some youth sides, certainly some second players, and then we're going to be looking to not only get down early on some of these favorites, but the lines are going to be outrageous. So we'll be taking them on the goal line several times and just letting these guys pour in. And a lot of that comes down to team attitude as well, right? Whereas Leipzig is not going to take their foot off the pedal. If they can score 8 goals in a game, they're going to do it. Bayern Munich, a bit the same way. Gladbach, not as much. Dortmund, not as much at times, right? So we'll be picking and choosing our spots on those games moving down the line as well.
Now, have you noticed that already that, teams are, I don't want to say sitting guys, but maybe not putting their best 11s out there? And have you noticed any of it affecting – the real reason I asked the question is, have you noticed it affecting the line? Like, have we seen teams putting out a slightly weaker 11 one way or another, and then, in a half hour, 45 minutes before the game when we get the starting 11s, have you seen the numbers kind of popping on that where, like I said, it is a reason where, all right, we should get down now because the minus 250 we're getting now might be minus 400 at game time or something like that.
I haven't seen a ton of that yet, Benny, but it's one thing I'm keeping an eye on. Another thing I'm keeping an eye on is, and I love to bet these, first half versus second half, which is the highest scoring half, different totals, things like that. One of the new things that's been implemented is a 5 substitute rule. So previously under FIFA rules, 3 substitute max. The new rule, because we're coming back and there's a lot of games in a short period of time, is allowing 5 subs, which is it's almost half the team, right, guys? But you can only do it 3 times. So you can make 3 substitution opportunities, and you can go up to 5 people coming on the field. To me, that's chaos, right? You're bringing in too many players. It's going to break up the rhythm of the team. And not everyone's been using all 5, but for me, it seemed to make sense that more goals would be coming in on the second half, which typically happens anyway in a game of soccer. I'm not firing on those yet. I'm tracking all that right now, but something I'm keeping an eye on to see how those totals change in the second half with all these. Imagine 10 new players coming on in the second half of a game. It's going to cause some chaos. We have seen some ridiculous late goals and results and goals not being scored when they should be because of breaking up that rhythm there. So again, something I'm tracking here to maybe attack moving forward.
All right, sounds good to me. Anything else you want to add here before we hop off? I just want everybody to know, if you need some more information here, obviously Duke's going to have stuff up in the betting package both today and tomorrow, because there's 4 games today, 5 games tomorrow. The 3 games that I was most interested in and the 2 that I was most interested in betting both happen to be today. I do not like the betting slate for tomorrow because we have a lot of those teams towards the bottom of the table that are all just not very good and beating up on each other. I will say this, though. If you guys are playing DFS action, make sure you get over there, because the DFS tomorrow is going to be great with a wide open kind of 5-game slate for Bundesliga action. So I am betting a little bit today. I am going to be playing a little bit of DFS tomorrow and making sure that I read Duke's article over at elitefantasy.com tomorrow. This way I'll be able to know how to build that team. And I've seen a couple nice little screenshots here coming out of some of our soccer subs. So it's always nice to see that happening.
Yeah, man, we've been smashing it. And of course, Tuesday we have, I don't know why DraftKings did this, but the Bayern and Dortmund games at 12:30 Eastern. Mm-hmm. That's one slate. And then the 3 games after is a totally different slate. So I don't know, maybe because of different times, split slate. I don't know why you wouldn't make a 4-game huge slate and just make it a $500,000 contest, but I don't know. I don't run DraftKings, so that's their decision. But we have been absolutely smashing it. My boy Gustavo yesterday turned $58 into a little over $1,000 using my article and building his own lineup. So a lot of good stuff rolling on. This is my job, right? This is what I do all day, every day. And so we're creating an edge over the field quite often here. I'd love for everybody to take advantage of it. Head over to elitefantasy.com, grab the VIP package, get MMA. KBO's going off right now. German Bundesliga is back. There's a lot of things going on to take advantage of.
Yeah, so before we sign off here, I just want to say, happy Memorial Day to everybody out there. Make sure you're staying safe and, having fun and doing whatever you can within this whole social distancing thing that we got going on here. And one last time, I'm just going to say it. Duke said it to the start, shout out to everybody who has family or friends or anybody who's given their life for this country. We may not all agree on things, but one thing we all agree is these 3 letters right here, baby, USA. Happy Memorial Day. And signing off for Duke.
We're number 1.
And this has been the opening line at EliteFantasy.com.